presented by Dano's Seasoning. Yum yum, get you some.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Sunbelt Syndicate, part of the Dogs Media Network, sponsored by Dano's Seasoning. You can see down below, we do have a promo code on the site right now, Doggos, DAWGGOS. Great flavors. I use some today. I use some, TJ, we've talked about this in the past. I used some of the Chipotle one on a wrap I had today. Phenomenal. Again, I don't go light on this stuff. Nice and heavy. I even mixed it with a little honey mustard, as weird as that may sound. It actually tasted pretty good to me.
Yeah, a little sweet, a little heat. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. TJ has a lot of experience himself with some Dano's seasoning as he runs thick thighs and large fries on the side. It's almost like rhymes all the way around there.
Yeah,
phenomenal. Check him out. Wait, you got an Instagram for that? And where else are you at for that?
Instagram. I also post a lot on TikTok, a lot of recipes, step by step, kind of what I do on TikTok as well. But a lot of what you'll do, you can find on my Instagram.
Awesome.
Thick thighs and large fries.
Absolutely. Give him a follow, man. It always makes me hungry when I see his stuff pop up. So that is TJ Corman, and I am the other half of the show here tonight. My playing experience is kind of null and void when it comes to expertise. I did dabble in a little flag football, but no real true on the field playing experience for football. On the other side of the equation, TJ here was a phenomenal athlete and got recruited out of high school as a quarterback to come to Appalachian State. Technically, TJ, you said as a running back first off.
Yeah, running back at first, but turned into an athlete, which then later turned into wide receiver. So slot receiver, however you want to call it. But phenomenal. Yep. I heard you throw the word phenomenal out there. Let's pull it back a bit.
Well, okay.
Decent, pretty good.
I'm gonna follow up the phenomenal with this. Started as a true freshman, finished his career with 3 straight national championships. Obviously, the big win over Michigan as well, and then had a shot at the NFL. You did a couple workouts for a couple different leagues, actually. When I was reviewing your resume here, as I went through all the guys who were trying to apply for the show, you were at the top of the list there, TJ. So just let you know.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, for everyone tuning in, I know we have hopefully some more viewers than usual or than we've had in the past. We'll start off with a little bit of some TJ breakdowns, some clips that we've grabbed from this past week of Sunbelt action. TJ will help explain a little bit more of what's going on or show us laymen's who are on the sidelines yelling about stuff that we don't understand. More of the interesting aspect of what we've got going on. And a reminder that as we go along, put your comments, questions, concerns in the comments, and we will try and get to you as we go down here live. And hopefully everyone can enjoy the show tonight. TJ, the first clip as we bring it up here is going to be between Georgia Southern and Coastal Carolina. And let me get this up on screen here for us.
2 Sunbelt heavyweights.
Yes. Well, at least going into the season, we thought Coastal was. It looks like Georgia Southern could be more of a heavyweight than Coastal at this point.
Apparently. Yeah, Coastal's been a disappointment so far. And, this play is an example of why, quite honestly.
Yep. So we'll go through full speed first time. TJ, I'll let you take it from here, and I'll slow it down along the way.
Yeah, you got your tight end goes in motion. They essentially what ends up happening is it becomes a 3-on-3, but the way that the tight end comes out and he blocks the outside man, he creates a natural pick or a natural rub with the outside linebacker. If you'll look and see the slow motion version, you'll see the outside linebacker trying to run. It's man-to-man, obviously, with that tight end. And he's running, he's covering that tight end receiver, but that tight end goes outside. And he blocks the outside receiver, which creates a natural rub, again, like I said earlier, with his own man. So ends up being an 11-yard gain. Great play, great design by the coaching staff there. But, again, natural rub, natural pick. And it goes back to what we talked about earlier, Coastal not being fundamentally sound, second, third level, defenders getting in each other's way. So Coastal not shaping up to be what we initially thought they were going to be coming into the season. That's for sure.
Definitely not. Definitely not. And it looks like, Georgia Southern's kind of picking up where they left off last year. I actually had a question on whether bringing in the second transfer quarterback in a row,
Yeah.
only a second-year head coach, obviously, that's wrong. Second year at Georgia Southern, obviously, he's very experienced head coach in Helton there. But, how does it work? How does it gel? And honestly, it doesn't look like they're much different. He had that little bit of a downer against Wisconsin where he threw quite a few picks there, Bryn did, but rebound nicely in this game for sure. And then we'll jump into this one, kind of one of the bigger matchups from last week as we had Louisiana travel all the way up to Minnesota. I don't know if you saw the clip, TJ. Louisiana put something out on social media where they had a lot of their players come over either before practice or after. I think it was before, and try and point out on a map where Minnesota was. And I think about half of them got it right.
I imagine there's not very many people down in Louisiana, or at least playing football down in Louisiana, who know or care where Minnesota is.
That's true. I think they would have known or cared a lot more had this game been in like end of November, than they do here at the end of September, early October timeframe. But let's take a look at this play here as we see Louisiana on defense, and Whitfield, who had a tremendous game. I'm going to kind of circle him here with the mouse and then let TJ see what we're looking at here.
Yeah. Looking at an ET stunt, it's a unique ET stunt, and I don't know that it was by design because you got an accident or something happened with number 77 for Minnesota. I think he's center. He goes down immediately and gives Whitfield an open rush to the quarterback. But normally on an ET stunt, your end goes around the tackle. Well, in this situation, the end not only goes around his side tackle, but he also goes around the tackle closest to him. So I don't know if it was play design or just kind of maybe how the chips fell, and he took the lane that was nearest to him that was open. Either way, ended up being a great play for them. But it looks like based on that other end's trajectory, his angle, it was supposed to be a double tackle stunt, but free rush to the quarterback. I mean, he's got nowhere to go. Excellent tackle by Whitfield. Great play design. Like I said, it's ET stunts, but I don't know that I've ever seen a double, I guess you can call it a double tackle, a double ET stunt, where that end goes around both tackles. That was great work, and it looks like you created, like I said, natural rubs. And they're using, like I said, in this case, you're just using your own men against you. There's no way that tackle or that center really can understand what's going on when you've got both tackles, basically stemming right and that end coming around to the left. So great play.
Yeah. And it's like, obviously, like you said, he gets tripped up either by himself or one of his other linemen, 77 does for Minnesota. But Whitfield essentially untouched, unabated to the quarterback. Obviously, the only thing that took a little time was that he, goes lateral before he makes his way there. But, man, yeah, great play there defensively to confuse them and get a little lucky there with 77 going down.
Sure.
Whitfield had himself a game. It's too bad Louisiana couldn't come out on top in that one. But
yeah, they played them tough, though.
They did. Absolutely. And that first half, man, I thought they might have them. It looked great, right in it, blow for blow. But one that wasn't quite blow for blow, South Alabama and James Madison here in our last clip to finish up the clip segment. This one has JMU up 7-0. And after this first one, I'll stop talking so that TJ can share with us exactly what happens on this eventual touchdown here for the Dukes.
Yeah, like I said, you've got your H-back or fullback or whatever. I don't know what the cool kids are calling these guys these days. H-back, fullback, whatever it is. Back when I was growing up, it was a fullback, but whatever. Comes across the formation. He looks like he kind of gives us a bit of a stutter and looks like he's about to take on that end to block. Freezes him, like you said earlier, Dominic, just enough to create enough room for the quarterback to get around him. Great pass on the outside. Nice little chip here by the receiver to get a hand on that outside shoulder, just enough to not get a block in the back call. Great blocking downfield by Zero. and it ended up being a great play overall. But, great play design. Like I said, that H-back really sold that fake block and allowed himself it gave himself a little bit of a cushion, gave the quarterback enough cushion too to get the ball. Perfect pass, perfect route, great blocking, great execution all the way around. Great play by JMU. And JMU really, I thought they were going to be good coming into the year. They've gone far beyond what I've even expected them to do. Again, this game really, it scores a lot closer than it actually was on paper. But going into this game, and now I think they're 6-0. JMU is really making a statement.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me totally agree with that, but I want to go back to one thing because I want to ask your personal expertise on, I think it's 0 all the way over here who comes across. I don't know if you were looking at the numbers as much because I thought it was 9 at first, but then what's the feeling as a wideout when, okay, you don't get the touchdown, right? But if this is 0 here, not only does he come across, pull somebody out of position so that this guy can make the catch and start to get downfield, but if I'm looking at the number correctly and keeping my eyes on the right spot, 0's up here continuing his block downfield, which this guy gets tackled, doesn't get into the end zone. So how's that feel? Like you're directly responsible for a touchdown. You're not obviously getting credit. Happens a lot. But is it still an awesome feeling? Do you feel like you're just as much a part of that play as the guy who scores essentially when you do something where it's like, without me doing all the work that I did, this guy's not getting in the end zone? Like, is that, do you feel that?
No. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, football is about all 11 men doing their job. Every position in football is dependent upon the other. That play does not happen without 0's block down the field. And it's that way, and more so in football than really in any other sport. All 11 parts have to come together. It's really a testament of the sum is better. It's greater. And so for that play, to answer your question, I've been a part of a lot of plays where, blocking was my assignment and I took pride in it. And I was, not to toot my own horn, but I was a damn good blocker. And I created a lot of holes, a lot of gaps, and a lot of people scored touchdowns off those plays. And you feel just as much a part of it as you would if you had scored yourself. Obviously, scoring feels a lot better. Let's not get crazy.
Don't get it twisted. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's not get crazy here now. Scoring a touchdown is way better. However, blocking feels good too, especially that next week when you're doing game film.
Yeah. And
you get called out in front of your peers. It's awesome for coaches to recognize your block as being the one that sprung them. So, absolutely.
Okay, great. I mean, kind of a little bit of that question was common sense, but sometimes I feel like, do you feel slighted at all because you've done a lot of work that, but like you said, it maybe pays off in the end when you're in the film room and the other guys who didn't see it, right, because of what they were doing or what they were looking at, the defense was looking at on the sidelines as they weren't playing.
Yeah.
Then everybody notices exactly what made it happen. So that's awesome to hear that. Going over the scores themselves from last week, obviously the game we were just looking at before that, the Cajuns do go down to the Golden Gophers 35-24. Ultimately, I don't think TJ was a real surprise in this one.
No.
About what we maybe expected. I did pick the Cajuns to win this because I thought Minnesota wasn't great, but ultimately Power 5 at home, that's a pretty big travel. Not totally shocked, I guess, by the score in this one.
Yeah, no, I mean, east to west, and you're also talking about north to south. Maybe not so much of a time difference, more so than it is certainly a travel distance. And I thought it was going to be a bit closer, but it's about what I expected as far as an outcome. But like we said, Whitfield had a hell of a game, so proud of what our conference could represent going up north.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think anybody's coming away from that one thinking that the Sun Belt's not coming with it every time. The game we did just look at, James Madison takes care of West favorite, at least early West favorite. I don't think
I was going to say not anymore.
Much anymore. Yeah. James Madison looks like the truth. And I guess we do have to give South Alabama a little bit of credit. I mean, they made that game a little bit closer there at the end. It didn't ultimately feel like they were going to come back and win it or anything, but they made it pretty respectable in the end. I just don't think that Jags fans are going to be happy with the respectable portion of it. So there's that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you get to catch any of this or see anything that besides the play we spoke of that?
No,
I guess
did.
it's just a line play, right? I mean, JMU's just defensively and offensively great.
Yeah, they're
sound on the
just.
line.
I mean, they're better up front, and you got to think too. Like we talked about the recruiting in Virginia. Those guys that don't get. If it's Virginia Tech or Virginia, outside of those two, JMU's next up. And honestly, I think JMU's at this point ahead of Virginia as it relates to recruiting. So, those guys on that offensive and defensive line, they're stout. They proved it. South Alabama really, like you said, they made it respectable in the end, but really it was never close in my opinion.
Agreed. One game that was also not close, and you correctly predicted right from the start, Arkansas State goes off against UMass, wins it 52-28. We will talk about this a little bit more later, but the quarterback, and I have to give a shout out here to Seth Johnson and also Jace, while they're both hopefully still watching, they let me know that the quarterback is not only true freshman, but he's from Kernersville, North Carolina.
How about that?
Yeah, Jalen Raynor, I guess I'm hopefully pronouncing that correctly. Doesn't seem like a hard last name. I just don't know where the emphasis is, on the last name. But yeah, I mean, he's taken over. Obviously, they didn't have a great start to the year with that game against Ohio State, but taking care of business versus UMass Minutemen. Anything to really say on this one? I mean, it just wasn't a close game, I guess.
Yeah, no, I predicted this was going to be a blowout, and you're right. Rayner went off 383 yards, six total touchdowns. That's nuts. That's absolute madness. So yeah, I don't know. Again, you expected this against a UMass team, but 6 touchdowns for one guy. I mean, that's incredible. So hats off to Arkansas State.
Yeah,
they did a number.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe with this one and at least one of their other games, or whether you can say they've really turned it around necessarily yet, but it does look promising, right?
Yeah, it looks good
with that kind of offensive output and a young kid who's ready to get in there and take over the reins. Now we follow that game up with one I watched almost from start to finish there. Marshall takes care of Old Dominion 41-35, but did you see the score in this one early, though? Did you see the score?
Yes, and Marshall, I tell you what, Old Dominion had him, and Marshall had a whale of a third quarter. I mean, it was blow after blow after blow in the third quarter. And I mean, you thought, or at least I did early on, I was like, we're going to be owing these Old Dominion fans a huge apology, which we already have, based on our previous conversations. But I really thought they was going to pull this out against Marshall. It got to a point where like I kind of was rooting for him. I was like, this is starting to look good. Yeah. And then I don't know what Marshall did at halftime, but they exploded offensively against Old Dominion. And like I said, they had a great third quarter. Unfortunately, Old Dominion did not. Did put up more points in fourth, but at that point it wasn't enough.
Yeah, I do have to give a shout out to Callaway, man. I honestly wasn't very aware of him before this game. I knew about Fancher. I knew about Ali, obviously, for Marshall and the great running back and really offensive line they've really got there to make him have success. But we did question
236 on the ground is crazy.
236 and 3 touchdowns. I mean,
on 11 carries.
Yeah, it's not like he had 22 of them. Yeah,
right. It's like what. I don't even understand what happened. You got the ball 11 times and you had 236 yards. Was one of them for 100 yards? I mean, what are we doing?
He had 1 for 70, 1 for 69, and 1 for 75. So, yeah, I mean, he had some big ones. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would say so. It had to be for, but like I said, I mean, they really they looked good, and especially in that first half. I really thought they were going to bring it home, but like I said, that third quarter, Marshall put the pedal to the metal, and it ended up being what it was. So kudos to them, but definitely hats off to ODU for a great game. There's no more victories, obviously, but great game by both teams.
And I wanted to share a comment we got from Ronald here. Actually, I think I missed this live, obviously, because it's actually talking back about one of the film breakdowns where we talked about the wide receiver doing a lot of the work, but great observation. Doing your part to allow a score is great, but scoring is outstanding. I think TJ, you alluded to that, right? It's always more fun to score still. So
yeah, that's my granddad, by the way.
Oh, okay. Very nice. Very nice. Well, thanks for tuning in, Ronald. We definitely appreciate
Love you, granddad.
it. All right. And the one, again, we started the clips out with this one. Georgia Southern takes care of Coastal Carolina 38-28. I think the basic thing that I took from this game is right when it looked like Coastal was doing their best to get back in it, provide a little bit closer of a game. That's right when the pick six happened for Georgia Southern, right near the goal line, too. I mean, it wasn't even – let's see if I could pull it up here exactly how far it was when they had that 20 yards, I think is what it was.
Yeah, they were in the red zone or close to the red zone, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Georgia Southern took off in the second quarter. I mean, I give you this. Coastal was consistent. They scored 7 points a quarter.
Yeah, true.
So they were consistent. It's just Georgia Southern. I think the game was won in that second quarter for Georgia Southern. And then, like I said, they poured it on even more in the third. And that's sort of, even with Coastal's last quarter score, it wasn't enough, and it wasn't going to be enough. They jumped out too much too quickly, and then after halftime, gave them another good shot, and that was all they needed.
Yeah, I think you and I are both now experienced enough in this conference to know that even if you're consistently scoring 7 to 10 points a quarter, it's probably still not going to get you a victory in this current Sun Belt climate, as we could say.
Especially when Brent's throwing for 322 and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, exactly. And one that was a surprise to me, not necessarily because of how it ended, but how the final score ended up looking. Obviously, Troy takes care of Georgia State, handing them their first loss of the season after beating them 28-7. I know there was some light conversation or possibility that Georgia State would be receiving some votes in the top 25 if they could keep it going. Certainly, if they beat Troy, that would have looked even better. But Troy brings them back down to earth here. It just wasn't really all that close for very long, I guess.
They didn't. Georgia State didn't show up at all. I mean, if you look at the stat line, they didn't really lead in any category statistically. Did not have their best game. Troy jumped all over them. And really, Troy didn't have a great first half. I mean, he only scored 6 first half points. But that, like I said, that third quarter, man, how you respond coming out after halftime can make or break you as a football team. And it's not like a lot of halftime adjustments happen. It's just you get a chance to reset. You get a chance to refocus. I played football, and obviously I played football. And going into halftime, it's not like we change a lot from a game plan perspective. There's not enough time. But what you do allow yourself to do is to refocus, understand who you are as a team and what you're good at, and get back to what we call basics or fundamentals. And that's what Troy was able to do: reset, refocus, understand who we are as a team. And they come out and they jump on them 15 points. That's honestly what puts them away. That's what breaks their back. So not the output that I was looking for from Georgia State. But certainly, something I hope they can bounce back from. I mean, it's only one loss. So it's not like, they're not out of it by any stretch. And, sometimes I hate saying this as a former athlete. Sometimes a loss is good for you. Losing is never good. I hate losing always.
Right.
However, sometimes it does bring you back down to earth. So we'll see what happens.
True. Like you said, kind of refocuses you back on some basics, which could have been a big difference maker, especially in that first half. And if you're further in it or leading after the first half, maybe just play better in the second half there. But I think your point is great. One loss isn't terrible, especially with what we've seen in the Sun Belt overall. The other good thing is this is the other side of the conference. So in the East, Georgia State's still sitting fine with the rest of their East counterparts. So this was a West loss. Not great. Again, still a conference loss, but not an East loss. So they're still kind of in it or good to go for the most part in that respect. We round out last week's action with the highest scoring affair of the weekend. Actually, this isn't rounding out the action. I'm sorry. Don't want to get ahead of myself. We have one last game that happens to involve our favorite team. But we have the Texas State Bobcats who took down Southern Miss 50
as expected
36. Did you expect 50 though? Did you?
I didn't expect 50. I will say that would be a
Okay.
lie if I said I expected 50. I expected them to win. And here's the thing with Texas State, I wasn't sure what team I was going to get, right? Because at the beginning of the season, they were shot out of a cannon.
Right.
And then they kind of tapered down a little bit and then came back down to earth a bit. Then they lost one. And then so I really wasn't sure who I was going to get. So 50 points, that's certainly a lot, but it's on par with how they started the season. But Southern Miss, I've grown to not expect a lot out of them. And sadly, because you and I at the beginning of the season thought they could be, a dark horse team. They could come out of the West and really surprise people. Sadly, we are not surprised. Actually, we are surprised, but just in a different way.
yeah, that's true. The big surprise to me in this one, again, like not that final outcome. Although I did take Southern Miss to win this because I thought maybe this is where they right the ship a little bit. Since that opening victory, Texas State hasn't been phenomenal in any regards.
Sure,
to me.
No.
I thought Southern Miss they're pissed off. Their fan base is mad. You at some point you got to win one, right? When that all accumulates to a win at some point. Well, that was all dashed almost immediately as they went down 21-0 in the first quarter. But they ended the first quarter 28-3, so it was even a bigger scoreline.
Yeah,
you knew they weren't winning that game. They made it a little bit. I don't know if I want to say even respectable, but they make it look a little closer than it was even in the end, to be honest. But
yeah, I mean, if you take away those 20 points in the fourth quarter against Scrubs, I mean, it's 50 to 16.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's, we're not giving them a lot of credit for garbage time points.
No, exactly. I think that's a good point. Just a disappointing season for Southern Miss fans. I really thought they'd have a little more at this point of the season. Looks like we got another comment that came in. Oh, okay. We got a Texas State fan coming back. I remember Artie Cat from last week. Thanks for showing back up and watching again. I think he was the one that pointed out our stream got suspended last week, actually. I think we had an ad pop up on a YouTube video or we got back on, but it did take a couple minutes. I went and watched it back. So appreciate Artie for checking back in with us. And absolutely. Go Cats. I mean, they just continue to roll with that one on the West side, an inter-West matchup, right? That's going to bode well for them going into play. And then obviously we're going to end with the last score of the week as App State finished up the game. Yeah, exactly. Sweat off the brow. I mean, I remember sitting at the edge of my seat on the couch waiting for this one to end.
I mean, we were texting each other. I can't tell you how pissed off I was during this game.
Yeah.
I can't tell you. I could not understand what we were doing. Both sides of the ball, defensively and offensively. It was one of those things where, and this you can't even blame this close of a game on coaching at this point. It was about our execution, and we did not do a lot of it, especially defensively. Players weren't in the right positions. We did get a pick six, which was great, but for the most part, I mean, we allowed too many big plays, and that's been the theme of us all season. We allow way too many big plays, way too many missed tackles. When we're good, but when we are not, we are really bad, and there's no in between. And I don't know how we remedy that. I mean, we make some really great plays on offense, and then it's almost like, the stretch play, the read option, or not, I'm sorry, not read option, read zone doesn't work, then nothing does. And we can't live in a world where we're one dimensional. And like I said, Aguilar made some great throws. But there were times where we made it harder on ourselves than we had to. And I think as a whole, we got to get back to, fundamental defensive football, because if our offense is scoring 41 points, well, I guess, 30 whatever points, right? Because our defense did score a touchdown.
The one touchdown.
Your offense giving you 30 plus points. There is no reason that the game should be close.
Right. And I think, looking back now, the rest of the game's pretty much blow for blow. But ULM starts off the game 14-0. That puts you in a hole in a pickle right there. Like, you don't want to be battling out like that on the road. The one thing that we've seen, and not specifically ULM, but just overall, there's sometimes really tough places to win at, right, in college football.
Absolutely. And Wofford was one of those places.
Yes. Okay. So Wofford was that for you. Apparently ULM is that for all the guys who have pretty much played in the Sun Belt so far. So Spartanburg, South Carolina, for whatever reason,
it's just I don't know. It was their. I don't know. It was our kryptonite. I mean, we lost once down there with when Armani. I think that was Armani's freshman year, or sophomore. I can't remember. We lost. Yeah, it was the year we beat Michigan.
That's right.
They beat us down in Spartanburg, and I'm like, how the hell does this happen? And then we go on to win out the rest of the season, and I'm like, it makes no sense. But sometimes a team just has your number, and I think ULM is that team. It shouldn't be that way because talent-wise, they don't match up. And I mean, on paper, however you want to slice this, on paper, on the field, wherever you look at this, talent for talent, position for position, it is not close. We are better than them everywhere. However, it's just one of those situations where it's a tough place to play, tough environment, and they're just a tough team when it comes to us. Like I said, Wofford was that way, with us for a good bit, actually all 4 years that I played there. And it just is what it is, man. And it's unfortunate, but, we made the best of a bad situation. Our kicker came through and what was that, a 51-yarder, 52-yarder?
54.
54. Yeah. Oh, yeah, because his career long before that was 51.
Okay, yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, honestly, when he lined up for it,
I thought there was no chance.
Like I didn't think there was no chance. I actually thought there was no chance when we got the ball to start with. When we started that drive. The first play of that drive, I think, was an easy kind of screen pass.
Yeah.
Bubble screen kind of thing to I think it was Christian Horn. He catches the ball, and you could tell he was looking to be ready for the tackler to come in or something, and he just stripped himself up. Landed inbounds.
No, it wasn't. I don't think it wasn't a screen. It was a drag route across the middle. And
okay.
If you're looking at the play, he's got 15 yards of green grass in front of him.
Yes.
And I think he was so anxious to get upfield. I could have thrown my remote through my TV when I saw that happen. I'm dead ass serious. I'm looking at it and I'm like, bro. First of all, you've got nothing but green grass in front of you. Second of all, you made one man miss and you're in field goal range.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's again.
And at the very least, even if you go out of bounds early, you stop the clock, you got more time, you can take, a good look at the sidelines to see what next play you want to run. Here's the thing,
even if he doesn't go out of bounds, still enough time to get up there, clock stops in college football when you're on a first down. So still enough time. Anyway, I don't want to live in the past. We won the game. It's great. I'm pissing myself all over again.
Well, hey, it shows that's a good thing in a way. It shows that we care, but it also shows where we expect to be. So I don't think it's a bad thing. There's other fan bases out there that would just be like, oh, okay, we lost. That's not what this school is. And most of the Sun Belt schools, honestly, that's not what these schools are about. They want to win. It's important to them, and that's what they care about. So
the entire Sun Belt Conference is, as Mike Tomlin would say, the standard is the standard, and the bar has been set pretty high for a lot of these teams. Louisiana, us, Troy, Georgia Southern, Coastal. We're calling Coastal a disappointment this year based on their output, and they actually, comparatively speaking, aren't. I mean, they're 2-3. I guess 2-4 now. Still. There's enough runway to turn it around. But again, the standard is set so high because of traditionally how well this conference has played, not just against each other, but how they've performed throughout college football. And against some top teams, JMU against, their in-state rivals, I guess you can call them that at this point. App State versus Carolina, Texas State against Oklahoma State. I mean, you've got some teams that are really, really good in this conference, and we expect to go out and not just compete. We expect to win. And that's the difference in a lot of these mid-major conferences versus our mid-major conference, is that the expectation is to win. And no matter who we play, there's going to be some time. Again, Georgia Southern, Wisconsin. Do we think Georgia Southern is going to beat Wisconsin? Absolutely not. But we absolutely know that they're going to go up there and put on a good show. So, the standard is the standard.
Yeah, and honestly, we talked about that one. If Bryn doesn't throw, he had 5 picks? I think they had 6 turnovers as a team.
Right.
That game is different. That game is different. So just like that Louisiana, Minnesota game there, you got people coming away going, don't mess with those guys. That's not
exactly.
Don't schedule them again, which is good and bad.
There's some there's some sweat being wiped off some brows when the Sun Belt plays these other conferences, especially these P5s.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, that wraps it up for last week's action. We get into this week's action after a short break from Dano's, our presenting sponsor for the show.
Yum, yum, get you some. Very good. Yum, yum, get you some. Yum, yum, get you some. Yum, yum, get you some.
Dano Seasoning, food's favorite flavor.
Yum, yum, get you some.
I'm Joe Burrito, your favorite burrito. Whoa!
Joe,
Hey.
we all know you're the best.
What?
But you can always do better.
What you got?
Try the new Dano's Hot Chipotle.
Hey. Ooh, that's spicy. Yum, yum.
Yum, yum, get you some.
That commercial must have been in my mind when I had the Chipotle today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, my wrap didn't look quite like the burrito, but it is similarly shaped. Except I put it on the inside.
Listen, I just learned last year. I just learned last year how to perfect a good wrap, and still not perfect, but like the folding of the edges, all that kind of stuff. Like I just learned how to do that and make it good. So listen, your wrap probably looks better than mine.
Well, I so that you've explained that, I have to explain that I used to work at a bagel shop where we also did wraps for lunch and stuff.
Oh, well, see, that's cheating.
Yeah, my wrap better look better than yours, you know.
Yeah, I would hope so.
I used to do it, man. But yeah, I put a little ham, cheese. Well, actually, I didn't have ham today. I had turkey and cheese. I miss all the extra stuff. You know, when you work at a place like that, you got your lettuce, tomato, all the bacon. You got it all right there.
Yeah, man. Black olives, tomatoes, banana peppers, the whole deal.
Well, I'll disagree on the black olives, but I like the banana peppers and the whole rest of what you said.
There's a lot of vegetables that I like to eat. I'll put most anything on my sub. I mean, I'll give almost anything a shot except anchovies. Okay. I'm not ever giving anchovies a shot.
Well, there we can definitely agree on that one. I'm not touching anchovies, man. I'll even do pineapple on pizza. That's not my favorite. I'm not going to order it, but I'll eat it.
Yeah, but if somebody else buys it, I'm not going to turn it down.
Exactly. Yeah, someone had some for free the other day. I don't know where that was. Oh, my brother, when I flew up to Philly and saw that terrible Temple Miami game, he had a pineapple and ham pizza, or was it pineapple? It might have been pineapple and bacon, which was even weirder to me. But anyway,
it's weird.
It's actually not bad, you know.
Again, sweet, savory. Yeah, listen, if it's free, unless it's anchovies. If it's free, it's for me.
Definitely agree there. That's for sure. All right, well, getting into this week's matchups, we got one here right around the corner from us, TJ, as we've got Marshall taking on NC State and taking a little look on what they did last week versus ODU. Here, I think it's popping up on the screen here. There we go.
Yep.
All right. So going into this one, we've got an undefeated Marshall Thundering Herd, 4-0. NC State's only 3-2, although, they've played some pretty good teams. I think the Louisville loss last week was a little bit surprising to me. Not shocking, but surprising. Yeah. The Notre Dame loss wasn't surprising at all, although I also thought they had a chance to beat them going into that game.
Sure.
I did look up this statistic before we get your thoughts. NC State, 5-0 all time versus Marshall. So they've never won here. Let's start off with your thoughts on, do they have a shot to finally break into that and get a victory over the Wolfpack here in Raleigh?
Yeah, a shot, absolutely. Absolutely. Anybody's got a chance for the most part. Any day you suit up to play. I will say, however, I don't think it's likely. I don't think it'll happen. I tell you what, I don't know how much faith I have in Armstrong. Sometimes he shows me flashes that he's great. And by great, I mean above average, pretty good. And then there's sometimes I'm just like, who the hell is this guy? Like, what am I looking at? So I don't really know what to expect from him. I know NC State defensively is pretty tough. So I think they'll give the Thunder and Herd a big blow up front. And I do think, they probably outmatched them, on that front offensive defensive line. So I think that's where the game will be won and or lost, depending on but Vegas has it at, only 6.5, so less than a touchdown. So anything's possible. But I if I had to bet my money, I got State coming away with this one. NC State coming away with this one.
Do you? I'm going to lean the other direction. I think
Yeah.
this is a Marshall team. Now, I'll be honest, too. Marshall has not blown me away. Obviously,
No.
last week against an ODU team that we thought probably both of us going in, Marshall would handle. They
Mhm.
didn't. They allowed them to run the ball rather easily with some big, big gashes. They cannot have that kind of defensive performance against NC State come away with a victory. Not in my mind, they can't.
No.
Even if your offense is firing, you're going up, like you said, against a bigger, stronger, outmatched defensive front of the Wolfpack there. There's a reason that most of these kids are in the ACC and in the P5 level.
Right.
That's not to say that they all deserve it and Marshall doesn't. I'm not trying to say that, but
Sure.
let's try not to get suspended this time here on this.
Yeah, let's not
Take
be
away
getting
that
ads on the
ad
don't.
that's popping up. Yeah. No. What do we always say, TJ? No free ads, right?
No
So,
free Randy.
Yes. So the interesting thing is though is Armstrong going to be the starter? I think NC State literally like yesterday maybe just
Oh,
changed
really?
their starter to give this other kid a shot. And
I think after that performance he had against Louisville, he deserves it.
yeah. And so if that's the case, does that change your mind at all? I mean, like you got a guy who's not got the experience that Armstrong has coming in now too.
So the thing that happens with that a lot of times is you don't have enough on tape, right? There's no film study on you. It's not a whole
True.
lot to prepare for. So, from a pass rush perspective, it's one of those things where I don't know, should I be rushing upfield, contain edges? Is he a run threat? I don't know what I don't know, right?
True.
And so there's that aspect of it. So it could be good or it could be bad. I would say again, like I said, I honestly think this game, if NC State can run the ball, manage the clock, and be dominant up front, I don't think I will say I'm not going to say I don't think it'll be close, but I think they come away with this game and cover the spread.
Okay. I'm sticking with my Marshall pick though, just because I want to.
Yeah. Listen, don't let me change your mind. I'm just, don't let logic change your mind. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Damn it, TJ. Damn it. Oh man. Yeah, we'll have our little first take segment where we take opposite sides of the spectrum just so we can battle it out here. No.
Yeah.
I want it for Marshall, I guess, is the basic thing, right?
Sure.
Like,
Me too.
if NC State was coming in like 1-4, something really terrible, and you're like, it's undefeated versus a 1-4 team, whatever. Maybe I'd feel a little different that I don't know. The local team, I guess, kind of. I don't know. I'm not a State fan. I don't really care whether they win or lose.
I'm not. I mean, my uncle went to State, but
there you go. So a little bit of connection. You've been on the sideline for a game at least, haven't you?
Oh, a bunch of games. Yeah,
a bunch of them.
Yeah, my uncle LeVar Fisher, he played there back in early 2000s. So got some ties there. But I mean, I went to a lot of camps back when Chuck Amato was coach. So. This was a long
when he talked like this and he was just their coach?
The guy that was shorter than I am, running around with a thick chest and small arms.
I was gonna say the shorter, but he was like,
yeah.
That was the weirdest built guy with the strangest voice to come out of his body that I think I've ever seen. I remember laughing out loud as a kid when I heard him talk because I didn't expect what I heard.
Yeah, imagine me being in high school at their football camp, and I'm like, this is who's yelling at y'all in practice? How do y'all stay focused?
So wait, you wouldn't rather play for Chuck Amato than Deion Sanders?
Yeah, right. Right.
I don't know. I mean, I guess did he play at State or did he played football somewhere though, didn't he?
I don't know. That's a good question. Somebody Google that and let us know.
Yeah,
I'm not sure we're talking about.
Yeah. I see at least some viewers in the count up there at the top of the screen.
Yeah, somebody let us know where Chuck Amato played college football.
Yeah, one of the other aspects I did note is obviously throughout the history of this, it's like one of these games was like back in 95, I think, before two kind of more recent games in 2017 and 2018, which were the exact same scoreline, 17-point difference in the game. Dave Doran was still the coach for both of those latest victories. So he's got some experience. However, obviously, he doesn't have any experience with Coach Huff, who is now at Marshall, and also beat Notre Dame last year on the road. So again, those are some of the little aspects, TJ, on
Yeah.
why I'm sticking with my Thunder and Herd pick. And honestly, I don't think it's enough, even if they win this, to get into the top 25. But I definitely think they'll be gaining a lot more votes to be right there on the cusp, which could be interesting, right? We get
Yeah.
closer to
It'll
Marshall, James
depend on how
Madison,
it,
Marshall, App State.
yeah, it'll depend on how it comes down towards the end of the season. My hope is that App State stops all of that, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, I do agree. That one, I'll definitely agree with you on
Yeah.
that one. That is also a 2 p.m. Eastern start on the CW network. Someone else on Twitter, I think it was, oh man, I don't want to discredit, so I'm not even going to say who I think it was. But all games will be televised across major outlets. Well, no, there's 3 of them on ESPN Plus still.
Two
Either way,
major outlets.
yeah, that's true. ESPNU for the next
I
one.
mean,
which-
I got ESPN Plus, so I don't know what I can't speak for everybody else, but if you don't,
Yeah.
step your damn game up.
Yeah, no free ads, but if you don't have ESPN Plus as a Sunbelt fan, you're doing something wrong, man, because you're
That
going
is
to
a
get
fact.
almost every football, basketball, and baseball game, along with, soccer, volleyball.
Yeah, and it's like $8 a month. You spend $8
Yeah.
a month on a burger. So
Yeah.
go watch
If you're
football.
if you're a sports fan, I know people say, I don't want to pay extra for ESPN. Man, you pay extra for everything. Like you said, you
Literally
go to
everything.
you go to a gas station and soda's almost $3
Yeah.
anymore. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
extra
just deal
dipping
with it.
sauce at any restaurant is like 35 cents. So
Yeah.
you're paying extra everywhere you go. You
know
can
what
pay a little
pisses
bit
me
extra
off?
for some football.
I paid a little extra for a BK dipping sauce the other day.
Yeah.
Well, this was weeks ago now. And I get all the way home. I need to do what you do. I've seen you say this before. You will sit there and search your bag to make sure they've given you everything you're supposed to get.
Absolutely.
I didn't do that.
Listen, I'm not leaving the drive-through line until I check. I don't care how many cars. It could be 1,000 cars behind me, and it could take me 10 minutes. I am checking my entire bag before I pull off. And you can blow your horn. You can do whatever you want to do behind me. I don't care who's mad. Don't make me any difference. I'm checking my bag before I pull off. I'm having my sauces. My fries better be hot, and my burger better be wrapped the way I want it wrapped. So,
Nice.
listen, I don't care who's upset, and I'll go back in. I'll go back in the store. Everybody's
Yeah.
gonna be late. Wherever they're going, we're all late. So, whatever. Don't matter to me.
Yeah, get it right.
Fight me. Who cares?
Well, Artie has stuck around. Artie Cat has stuck around, and he let us know that Amato did play for NC State back in 65, 67 at linebacker. It makes sense with his body build, I guess, right? That he's a linebacker.
Yeah, but he's like 4'8". Who's he tackling?
I wonder. Maybe Artie will chime in with more, but I wonder if he was any good statistically. They always say sometimes the players that can't do coach.
I was going to say
one of
those that can't
guys.
do coach, except Deion Sanders.
Except for Deion Sanders. Yep. And we've got a couple guys. There was
Dan Campbell. He was pretty good.
Yeah, that's true. It seems like it is becoming. I mean, I know basically I would rather listen to anybody who's done the profession that I'm doing when I'm trying to, figure it out. That's literally done it, right?
Yeah.
That was the weird thing when Eli Drinkowitz, who's now with Missouri, was at App State. I was kind of like, he was kind of like the Amato to me, not because of how he sounded, but just like this nerdy looking dude with glasses who's never really played the game. Obviously, he's a smart dude, but when you've got guys that tower over you,
Missouri is not very good. So,
well, no, Missouri's ranked.
They are
Missouri
okay. They
team.
haven't been in the past. Okay.
Well, to your credit, with saying not very good. Their only real big victory at this point was against a ranked K-State team who is now not ranked. And then
I was going to say K-State is not very good at this moment.
Yeah, I mean K-State I think is dangerous, but yeah, I mean I don't think they are conference champion looking team like they were last year. Obviously,
no.
As weird as that sounds too, because TCU made it further than them in the end. So your conference championship means
almost
not
nothing
as much. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, getting back into this coming week's action, we've got Texas State 4-1 going up against a 3-2 Louisiana team. And as I bring back up some highlights to look at from last week, we'll start with the opening kickoff versus Southern Miss. Is this going to add to the screen here? There we go. A little late. Nonetheless, Here goes Marty all the way down the field, right off the
Yeah.
jump versus Southern Miss.
Yeah, they
Went
jumped
on to
out on
have
him quick.
yeah. He went on to have a very productive day overall. I think he went for 3 rushing touchdowns. I'm not sure if that 3 touchdowns includes this here. I don't believe it does. I think he had 4 total touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. But definitely somebody to look out for, along with TJ Finley, obviously also having a great game in this one. I don't know. It's a sneaky game, though, because Louisiana, overall record's only 3-2. But you
Right.
saw the scare they just put into Minnesota. Not necessarily that Minnesota's a world beater of any sort, but a Power 5 team at home. They came away with a great showing overall. Who continues to kind of roll here? If you want to call Louisiana coming off a loss of rolling, I guess I don't want to say that, but
Yeah, well, here's the thing, though. I said this a little bit earlier. I don't know what Texas State team I'm going to get. You know, like, if I get Texas State that played against Oklahoma State, then yeah, I'm picking them. Absolutely, I'm going to pick them.
That was South Alabama before you get there. Oklahoma State. You mean Baylor, right?
I mean, yeah, that's what I'm sorry, Baylor. My apologies.
No
but
problem.
if I get them, then I'm like, absolutely. That's who I want to pick. But I just don't know who I'm going to get. And I think that is what I guess is the conundrum in this game. I mean, if I had to choose based off what I know, Louisiana is the better talent. And usually in the past has been. I can't call this one. I mean, Vegas has a line at 2.5 and I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna go with Vegas and I'm gonna pick Louisiana, but I'm not happy. I'm not confident at all. This could go either way.
Yeah, I would not have any confidence in either direction real good. Real heavy, I guess I should say. And Artie's going to chime back in here. Let's see what he's got to say. Texas State defense will have to play a lot better than last week, but I think the Bobcats get the win versus the Cajuns. I can't disagree with that, especially if they do play that better defense.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, it depends on the Texas State team that I get. If I get who I think they can be, then yeah, I'll go with Texas State. But also if I get who, Louisiana, I know Louisiana can be. At the end of the day, if both teams are playing at their best, Louisiana is a little bit better than Texas State, in my opinion, if both teams are at their best. But again, they're so up and down. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised who wins this game.
Yeah, that's true. I think this one, can we agree that this one's going to come down to, as Artie Cat says, defense for sure, but a big aspect of how well the defense is playing is how will the quarterback play. And I think you got a TJ Finley versus Zion Chris matchup here that could be pretty phenomenal if both guys are playing well, because we've seen what TJ Finley is capable of. Obviously, Zion Chris seems to just be scratching the surface of his potential overall, and can really make some plays with his feet. I don't know. I'm actually kind of surprised, like you are, maybe, that the spread is in the favor of the Cajuns in this one. I'm
not surprised that it's in favor of the Cajuns.
Okay.
I'm surprised that at this point in the season that it's only 2.5, which speaks to where I think we thought Louisiana would be. That's what surprises me, is that Louisiana's not been as consistent as they have been in the past.
Right. Yeah, the ODU loss. Obviously, we've seen what ODU's capable of against Marshall, just this past week.
And spoiler alert, I'm picking ODU versus Southern Miss, and certainly not by 1.5. I'm picking them by a lot. So there's that.
1.5 is the spread?
Well, 1.5 is the line for Vegas, and I'm gonna tell you right now. And they've got Southern Miss winning it by 1.5.
Oh,
it's gonna be a hell and a no for me. I'm taking ODU all the way. Not jump ahead, but also to jump ahead.
Oh no, that's
I'm telling
fine.
you that right now.
So let's is that the next one I got? Well, no,
that's the last game.
It is the last game. Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll keep it in order then. But yeah, I mean, we'll definitely probably agree on that one. So this one, I guess specifically here, Louisiana versus Texas State down there in Cajun country at 3:30 Eastern time on ESPNU. Again, Cajuns favored by 2.5. We'll see if that comes. This is definitely one I'm going to be watching, especially
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
what's nice is the first 3 games of the day are a little bit staggered. We can watch the starts of every single one of them.
Yeah.
If we're watching from home, I may be going to the Marshall NC State game in person. I don't. It's not often that we get to see games. When App's on a bye. Well, I guess it's not really a bye week. They play Tuesday night, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They're not playing Saturday. It's not often that you can travel easily to another conference team that you'd really like to see in person. So I may be checking that one out. Let's jump into the next one that's got Arkansas State versus Troy.
Troy. I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna take Troy, and I'm gonna take Troy not because they're just better. I know Arkansas State has had some games where they surprised us. I know they've played well at times, but they've not been consistent enough to make me think that they can beat a Troy team, especially a Troy team that plays as well as we know they're capable of playing.
Yeah, that's true, and I think Troy just showed that last week against Georgia State.
Right.
I mean, we both understand and agree that Georgia State did not come ready to play, but I would assume that they definitely stepped the game up in that second half, and Troy was still able to put them away easily, even with them playing a little bit better. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Arkansas State's now got this phenom at the quarterback position. It's definitely worth him getting more points overall, but we know Troy's predicated on that defense that they've got. I don't think it started the season as well as it ended the season last year, but maybe they're rounding back into that phenomenal defensive front that they've got and, putting it all together, get these guys that are younger, a little bit more experienced by now. Yeah, I mean, this is interesting. I don't think we even touched the overall thing on the last one. By the way, jumping back into that last matchup, just to note this because I did have it up and I forgot to mention it. The Cajuns 9-0 all time versus Texas State. So there's another thing to lean on you for your Cajun pick in that one. But as far as this one goes, this one shocked me. So between Arkansas State and Troy, who has the overall series lead?
A little bit of trivia.
Just take a stab. Just some guesses.
I mean, my guess now is Arkansas State.
Yeah, I gave it away with how I asked. Yeah, that's true. But they are 10-8 all time versus the Troy Trojans, which let's think about this for a minute. When App State actually came into the Sun Belt, Arkansas State was the top dog, really. It's kind of hard to remember that because they've been down for so long here lately, but they were the class of this conference before a lot of these newcomers had come in. So for them to be in the overall lead, I guess, should not be shocking. But yeah, I mean, I was still a little surprised, I guess, because of recency bias that Troy wasn't taking this one. But Troy does have the last 2 victories. So that also tells you where the current layout lies with that. I think get back again, most important position on the field. If Gunnar Watson has a terrible game, I think Arkansas State may have some sort of chance. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put any money on it. I'm taking Troy.
No.
I'm probably taking Troy to cover with that 16-point spread, even too, to be honest. But
another funny anecdotal note about Arkansas State. My cousin actually played basketball. Shout out Jim Jones, North River. He played basketball at Arkansas State, and his older brother, Dwight Jones, played basketball at Colorado. Shout out Colorado. Oh. Shout out Arkansas State.
Very nice. Very nice. Did not know that.
Yeah. Got some family ties to a bunch of these colleges around here.
Yeah, there you go. Artie Katz also chimed back in again. Troy, even after last week's big Arkansas State upset, just all-around better team, but Arkansas State might make it close. I think that's perfectly said, honestly.
I think it's fair. I think it's fair, but I honestly don't think, like I said, if we get the Troy that we know we should get, I don't think it'll be close. I think they cover the spread. I think it's 16.5, and I think they win, probably about 20 if Troy plays the way they should play. But
that's true.
if in ifs were fifths, then we'd all be drunk. So
That's true. I think, we talked about the defense for Troy. I think the offense for Troy is actually better this year than it was last year. I'm not saying like wins and loss, obviously, because of Troy's start versus last year versus this year. But I think, if you by the eye test, I think Troy's offense is better this year than it was last year as a all around, spreading the ball around and having success in more spots. So, they go out there and they beat, this highlights here from that Western Kentucky team. This one's actually 2 weeks ago, since there wasn't really many highlights from last week's game versus Georgia State. In fact, there were no highlights that I could find. But yeah, that's the bad downside about ESPN Plus. These bigger places put these highlights on YouTube to find easily, but ESPN Plus doesn't have a highlight package put together for you that makes it nice and easy.
right.
Jumping into the first of the 7 p.m. Eastern games, we've got South Alabama versus Monroe. They're both just 2-win teams coming into this one. Any thoughts on who rebounds better, I guess? Obviously, they're both coming off a loss just last week.
Yeah.
South Alabama goes down to JMU. Monroe goes down to App State, and that's a shocking heartbreaker if you are a Monroe fan. Obviously, as an App fan,
Yeah.
it's fine. But what do you see possibly happening? It looks like USA is a 10.5-point favorite in this one so far.
Yeah, I think South Alabama wins, and I think they win pretty handily, or at least cover the spread. ULM, I think, gave their best shot to App State, and they were going to do that because traditionally they have. But I think they gave what they have best wise in terms of ability to offensively, defensively put everything together. I think that was the best that we'll see of them, the rest of the year, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think South Alabama is better than the tape that they put on for sure. And I think this is the bounce back game that they have. And I think they put it all together, against a UL Monroe team that, quite frankly, isn't great all the way around, but they have flashes to where they have played great. And so I think this is an opportunity for South Alabama to kind of show who they are.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on this one. I mean, Jaya Wright really kind of impressed me last week, but it was not the greatest defensive performance there by App State. Howell was a great wide receiver for them. I mean, they just had success all over the field, so it's hard to say they're going to just lose all that. But also at the same time, South Alabama was the West favorite coming into the season, and a lot of that was predicated on the fact that they were going to have a great defensive front. And obviously, with where them and Troy were last year, South Alabama before their bowl game was only a 2-loss team. Both those losses pretty close, if I can remember right, especially the one versus Troy. So you've got to think that ULM probably doesn't have that good of an offensive performance 2 weeks in a row because they're not historically doing that. And
I was going to say that's not their MO. That's just not who they are. So,
exactly.
And they're not going to give us back to back. Listen, if they do, congrats, kudos to them. But traditionally, that's not who they've been as a team.
That's right. And Artie Cass letting us know Bowden has ULM playing well and doing better than many predicted. Absolutely. I mean, I was really impressed with what we saw there last week as App fans with where ULM is at. For whatever reason, they usually perform better at home. This game is also there at home in Malone Stadium. Will more people show up than last week, right? And after that performance, is it going to improve with the attendance? I mean, they deserve more fans with how they're playing. If they could play like that
absolutely,
again,
they do. Yeah,
I mean,
and if they can continue to put up games like that, the problem is there's so many schools in Louisiana that they're competing against talent wise, and it's hard. It's hard. I mean, Louisiana. I mean, obviously, LSU. They're cream of the crop as it relates to schools in Alabama, but you've got Louisiana State, Louisiana Lafayette. There's just there's too much going on for them to, and then also out of state schools too. I mean, Alabama's recruiting, in Louisiana, so there's just a lot that they have going against them from a recruiting perspective. But they have played better, and they're playing great to Artie's point. But I don't know, like I said, traditionally they have not been able to give us those consistent back-to-back offensive type of games. And I don't see, after what they did at App, I don't see it being that same way again.
Yeah. No, I think that's certainly where we can agree is that it's just not likely to happen 2 weeks in a row. I guess, again, the only thing I could point to about why it could happen is they are playing at home. It's not like they have a big travel week they're getting prepped and ready for. South Alabama
Right.
is coming to them, and South Alabama did just go all the way to Virginia. So it's kind of like, up and down a little bit. I mean, Monroe's not crazy far for the guys in Mobile, but, it's
Right.
still a destination they got to travel to. So,
Sure.
maybe that evens it a little bit. I guess I wouldn't be blown away if it's within that 10.5-point spread. But yeah, I mean, smart money. I mean, I'm probably taking the Jags to rebound and try and get back into that form that I think many expected them to be at going into the season.
Right.
Let's jump into that game you tried to jump to earlier as I dropped this pen all over here. We've got Old Dominion 2-3, a little bit of a surprise, going up against Southern Miss, who's just 1-4 coming into this one. I don't know what to make of this. Old Dominion, more impressive than what I thought going into the season. Southern Miss, not as impressive as I thought going into the season. Although I think at this point in time, I wouldn't have been shocked if Southern Miss was just 2-2. So the fact that they're 1-4, well, I guess it wouldn't be 2-2 at this point with 5 games. But you know what I mean? I
Right.
guess I expected them to lose to both Tulane and FSU. I just didn't see them losing to both Arkansas State and Texas State
No.
before the season started, especially with how they finished last year. They've got Frank Gore Jr. down there, who I thought would kind of run a little wild this year, and obviously that has not happened. So, what do you think we will get kind of more specifically in this game?
Yeah, I think I think ODU pulls away. I think they're too much offensively. I do think Frank Gore Jr. is going to have a pretty good game. I mean, last week he or so far he's got 4 touchdowns on the season. He's not having as good a season as I thought he would. I think you predicted towards the beginning of the year, like you said, he would in your words, run wild. He hasn't exactly done that.
Mm-mm.
That said, what better game to get back on track than ODU? However, ODU has completely changed my mind this year about what I thought about them, and I'm gonna ride the train. I'm gonna jump on the bandwagon. Call me wherever you want to call me, but at this point, I'm gonna ride the wave with ODU and see how this goes. Like I said, I mean, line is only 1.5. Southern Miss. That tells me smart people think that this could be a pick'em game, and if that is in fact the case, if it's up in the air, I'm taking, based on what I've seen performance-wise from Southern Miss versus ODU, I'm gonna take ODU.
Okay. Even though I'm showing the highlights from the game that ODU somehow almost lost to an 0-2 FCS team.
Listen, it happens. We're not always our best. Maybe they needed a Snickers. They were hungry. I don't know.
That's true. I was listening to shout out to some of the other guys who do what we do, which is the Monarchist and the Thundercast. If those guys happen to be watching or listening, I was listening to the joint show that those two did last week, and it turns out that there was some injuries and some guys being kind of held out in this ODU game versus Texas A&M Commerce. So that's a little bit of an explanation. Doesn't excuse it. They should still have beaten this team way worse and still perform better. They all admitted to that and agreed upon that. But there is a little bit of a story than just like, hey, they had everybody, they were 100%, and they just went out there and laid an egg. Not quite what happened. But anyway,
and it happens, right? Not everybody's going to be 100% all the time. And, a win is a win, and we'll take it, even if it's not pretty.
Yeah, absolutely. One more comment from Artie Cat on that last matchup. I do agree that the ULM, the best branding they can do is that shark helmet, which comes from the airplane, the shark look to the side of the airplane. I don't know the historical prevalence of it, but yeah, it's certainly one of the coolest helmets in the sport. Cool logo overall, and definitely one that ULM better stick with moving forward because it's vastly superior than what they've got otherwise. I mean, Warhawks is just a cool name. You got to do something better than that
Right.
ULM logo that they've got there. It's just a tad boring. But
Yeah,
anyway, going
I
back
agree.
to this one. Yeah, they're going back to this one. Hey, it's our another presenting sponsor with Bones Coffee. We can actually let this one roll because that's literally
we
a
can
college
let this
football
one
dog
roll.
sponsor. We're not really going to let it roll though, folks, because
No, but we could if we wanted to.
we could if we wanted to. Yeah, I recognize her from all the Bones Coffee commercials, and it's phenomenal stuff. So if you do have some desire to get some flavored coffee, they have a bunch of cool Halloween flavors out right now. So a little bit of an ad read I'll throw in there just because they popped up on the screen. But it is phenomenal stuff. Just like Dano's, I've actually tried it. I can swear by it. I would order it again. Fantastic. Going back to this game, yeah. I mean, if you look at the first 5 for Old Dominion, they've literally gone back and forth. Loss, win, loss, win, loss. So
Right.
if history repeats itself, ODU will win this game here. So there's a little bit of a statistic for you on that side.
Little silver lining.
Yeah, as far as the overall historic matchup between these two teams, I won't give you any lead in for this one. And it's also a trick question, but what do you think who leads the historic matchup between ODU and Southern Miss?
I'm gonna guess they haven't played very much in the past.
Boom. They haven't, but they have played twice.
Huh.
So,
Southern Miss, I'm guessing, because historically Southern Miss has actually been fairly decent. I think that's where Brett Favre went to school.
It is where Brett Favre went to school. However, this is where the trick question comes in. It's 1-1.
Ah,
But obviously you weren't far off, right? So
yeah. I knew they hadn't played each other very much, especially, and this is just geographically speaking. And I know, like I said, I know some historical context, and I know some people that played at Southern Miss. So there's that.
Okay. There you go. So they last played in, it looks like 2016, and Old Dominion took that one. So technically coming in, ODU also has the latest victory in the series overall. I'm guessing not many games were played because, like you said, Southern Miss was at a pretty high level, been in Conference USA. ODU obviously was moving up, and they didn't even have football there for a little while. So, yeah, I think that was part of the reason for that. Artie Cat chimes in, ODU all the way. Southern Miss looks pretty bad this year.
See, he agrees. Yeah. All right. I mean,
He's right.
listen, the proof is in the proverbial pudding, and I don't even like pudding.
Well, you know what's funny? Like last year, coming into the season with what Southern Miss had done the previous year in Conference USA, apparently, they were going to have a lot of guys out from their roster that were going to come back this year. So it was like, okay, yeah, they're going to have another down year. This Sun Belt's pretty strong for them to come in from what most people thought of as a weaker Conference USA. Then they come in and they actually were pretty impressive overall. I mean, they were one of the only teams that beat Tulane last year. We know where Tulane ended up.
Right.
But obviously coming into this season, expectations were unfortunately quite a bit higher, and they've fallen pretty flat so far. It looked like, going back to the Frank Gore thing, it looked like they were kind of holding him back a little bit early because they were going to save him for some of their bigger matchups and bigger opponents, and it hasn't worked out for them. And maybe he's banged up. It's one of those things that you just don't know the true history of. But yeah, I agree with you and Artie Cat on this one. Definitely ODU, sticking with them, even though we both kind of thought that the Golden Eagles could be a little bit of a dark sleeper, deep sleeper pick for the conference overall, or at least to make some noise, but doesn't look like that's going to happen. That'll wrap it up for what we got coming up this week. We'll have to actually talk, TJ. We haven't quite talked about this yet. With App State playing on Tuesday night, we'll have to do something for some coverage before that one goes. Maybe a short
let's get together
special episode.
Yeah, let's do a little 15-minute episode on Monday night. See how it goes.
Yeah, we could do something like that for sure. We'll talk about that more after the show or after that, but wanted to touch on anything you wanted to speak on for our extra point segment. Anything big from top 25, your Dallas Cowboys? I mean, what are your thoughts overall on what the college landscape looks like in the rest of the football world?
Yeah, not a lot of surprises last week in the top 25. Obviously the entire world is following Colorado and what Prime is doing up there. Shout out to them. They put up a hell of a fight against USC. I thought they did really well. Caleb Williams is an absolute dog. But so was Shedeur Sanders. I mean, he had 4 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown, almost 400 yards passing, and I think over 400 yards total offense by himself. So I think I think Colorado's on a trajectory. If you were told me last year, obviously Prime going there notwithstanding, but if you had told me last year that a 1-11 team would turn around and win their first 3 games and be 3-2 going into a year, I told you were a damn fool, right?
Right.
So I think what Prime is doing is absolutely spectacular. I think it's great for the college football landscape. Obviously, it's one of those things. It's the Prime effect, and I think a lot of kids are going to want to go there. And I think where they're going to get better is in the trenches. Those big kids up front. I think they'll start to gain some depth. Like we talked about a few weeks back, a lot of those guys that are on Alabama's roster, LSU, Florida State, Carolina, those, P5 schools that aren't getting a lot of burn but are still really good football players, they're going to start migrating west. And I think you'll see a huge difference in total play. Outside of that, I think Duke blew it against Notre Dame.
Yep.
I put up a status the night that they played. I said Duke needed a mirror so they can see exactly who blew it, because they did. They absolutely blew that game. Had it won, and just.
I think you could see the shock in all the student section's faces when they let Estimate get loose off, what did he break, 7 tackles to get into the end zone?
It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
At that point, they were setting up for a field goal. They weren't even trying to score a touchdown at that point, right? I mean,
no, they just wanted to listen. And I'm not a Duke fan. I have no ties to Duke. Don't like them. Don't even know anybody that went there. Actually, I do know one person that went there. He's got a friend of mine through a friend in Atlanta. But they blew that one. Outside of that, not a whole lot of surprises. Shout out to Kentucky for beating Florida. Not a super huge surprise. Florida's not very good. Hadn't been for past couple years. They are ranked in the top 25. So Kentucky did what I guess people didn't think they were going to do.
Right.
But
all right,
looked pretty good doing.
Question there. Kentucky now faces UGA. What do you think? Two things. Do you think Kentucky's a real enough contender to actually look good or win that game? And do you think Georgia is actually the number 1 team in the country right now? Because I think there's a lot of people that are saying they aren't.
So I think those people are outside of their mind. Georgia is clearly far and away the number 1 team in the country. Obviously, nobody is going to play their best every single game, every Saturday, right? It's not possible. It's not going to happen. To your first question, Kentucky being a contender to Georgia, come on, man. Come on. They're going to beat them by 30.
You think so?
Yes, absolutely. Georgia is better in every statistical way.
What if Ray Davis goes off again, man? He had that game against Florida. Ray Davis is unstoppable right now.
Listen, the talent it's a different level. I don't know very many football players who grow up thinking, I want to go play for Kentucky. You go there because it's the last ditch, that's where either your family went there or that was the only school that recruited you. Nobody who has a choice of schools go to Kentucky. Shout out to Kentucky fans. No disrespect, don't mean anything bad by it, but you go there to play basketball and watch basketball. They don't stand a chance against Georgia. And Georgia is absolutely the number 1 team. You've got some good teams out there who, Michigan's good. They should have beat Nebraska. They did 45-7. That didn't prove anything to me. Texas beat Kansas. Not surprised at all by any stretch. Penn State is gonna Penn State, right? they're gonna be good every year at the start of the year. Then they're gonna lose to Michigan and they're gonna lose to Ohio State because that's what they do. That's who they are. They're the Oregon of the East Coast. Oregon starts strong every single year, and then Oregon loses to USC or whoever else, and their ranking goes. It's just how it works. Some teams you can bet the farm that they're going to be who they are, and Penn State is one of those teams. So that's my tangent.
Yeah,
I do like Washington.
Okay,
Penix is a real deal. I mean, in the true Heisman candidate, I think I've got Caleb Williams, and then I've got Penix, and then I've got Shador as my top 3 Heisman candidates right now. A lot of people think I'm crazy for picking Shador. But if you look at the stats and if you look at his game compared to those guys and the numbers that he's put up, he's not far off. That's for sure.
Yeah, which is kind of surprising. I mean, I think the thing that just hurt him right now is that performance against Oregon, right? I mean, it just wasn't good. But like you said, overall, if you just don't look at the game specifically and just look at the overall stats, he's still there.
Ask yourself this question. If you start the college football team right now, you want Bo Nix or you want Shador Sanders?
It's a good question. I'll be honest. I haven't followed Bo Nix enough. I probably followed Shador better because I watched more games that Jackson State played last year and so far this year with Colorado than I've watched with Bo Nix under center at Oregon.
I'll tell you this.
So I'm picking Shador just because I literally have watched him more.
Well, and not just that. Think of it this way. There's a reason why Bo Nix has played for 3 teams in his college career.
Yep.
Good quarterbacks don't have to switch teams. Let's just put it that way. Shador switched the team for a different reason.
Right.
I would follow my father, too, if he was the GOAT. Yeah. Literally the greatest football player to ever touch the field. But Bo Nix, come on, man. Nobody's picking Bo Nix as their starting quarterback anywhere unless you're Oregon. Come on, man. I'm not selling what Bo Nix is buying, or I'm not buying what Bo Nix is selling. That's for sure.
That's not. Yeah, I can't disagree with that too much. I will say this: so my top 3 right now are Caleb Williams, Michael Penix Jr., and I do have Bo Nix in there. But again, but for people that don't know how I rank things, like Georgia ain't my number 1 team. I'm not saying they can't be number 1. I'm not saying they're not the favorite in the SEC.
Who you got number 1? Michigan.
I got Michigan. I think they're the best showing team right now. Now, does Michigan end the season?
But who have they played of note that makes you say, yeah, they're better? Like no one Michigan has played is better than anybody that Georgia has played.
Well, that may be true. I'm trying to see. Okay, so but with who they've played, you're right. I mean, their schedule right now has not been impressive whatsoever, and they really don't play anybody until they play. Literally, they end the season with Penn State, Maryland, Michigan, or Ohio State. Penn State,
so that's going to be their
State.
test, and they'll lose 2 of those games. No, they'll lose 1. They'll lose to Ohio State.
Yeah. Well, I think right now I'm leaning heavily on the defensive stats. There's not enough teams that are performing well defensively to impress. Like let's just take USC for example, right? They can outscore just about any damn body, but their defense
they give
horrendous.
up 100,000 points a game. Yeah, I get it.
And Lincoln Riley is known for having those types of defenses. So to me,
yeah,
I mean, people are putting them in the top 4, and I do think I have them up in the top 4 right now. If they're not, they're right outside for me. But they're not well rounded enough. I mean, they could beat anybody. They could literally, them winning a national title wouldn't shock me. But
they could also lose by a field goal because they couldn't stop anybody with 2 minutes left to go and a timeout. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's that.
And I'm the type of guy who's going to put stuff that's changing a lot more throughout the season, right? Like I said, me having Michigan at number 1 is not me thinking Michigan's ending the season at number 1. Could they? Sure, but that's not why I have them ranked there. To me, it's what they've shown so far. They haven't even.
I get it.
They literally haven't allowed more than a touchdown in any one game this year. Not a single game. They haven't allowed their opponent to score more than 1 touchdown. So to me, that's again, you do have to look at the strength of the schedule at that point. No, it's not good. You've got East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, Rutgers, although was undefeated going into that matchup, and then you've got Nebraska, who has been pretty bad. But they have taken care of business the way you would expect them to so far. So that is why I have Michigan at 1. But looks like we lost TJ. See if he jumps back.
No, I'm here. No, I mean, and I was trying to pull up Georgia's schedule and see who they've played comparatively speaking. I mean, UT Martin, Ball State. I mean, they play South Carolina. South Carolina's better than anybody that Michigan's played so far. UAB, quite frankly, is better than anybody Michigan's played so far. And Auburn certainly is better than anybody Michigan's played so far. And
I'll question you on the UAB one. You don't think Rutgers could beat UAB right now?
no, I don't think so. I think UAB's offense is too explosive. I think UAB has they're not going to stop them, but I think they could certainly I think they could 45-41.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
A USC type situation.
Right. They're not good enough to stop anybody, but they can certainly score 40 quickly, unless
True.
it's against
Okay.
Georgia.
Right.
And even
I think
against Georgia, they put up 21.
Yeah. I think that was
So-
my question mark with Georgia is the defense where it used to be? And two people's credits with where they're putting Georgia, Kirby Smart himself has come out and said that this is not the last 2 seasons worth of Georgia. We're not at that level. I think he's being realistic.
Well, no, but nobody in college football is, though.
Right.
Who
that's
in
true.
college football is as good as they were last year? Not Alabama, not Michigan. No. I mean, TJ Hawkinson is listen, you got Alabama, Michigan, Oklahoma certainly is not as good. Texas is kind of teetering. They look almost as good, maybe a little bit better than they looked last year. Outside of that, who you got? Who looks the same way they looked last year or the year before?
Yeah.
Again, maybe Michigan, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's true. Michigan's pretty consistent in that realm.
Yeah, college football as a whole, the top 25 as a whole, they're down comparatively speaking, talent-wise, and what we saw in the past 2 years. Georgia's last year team would have blown out this Georgia's team. They beat them by 20.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Absolutely.
So, but also if everybody else goes down, then it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's true. Very true. Maybe to wrap it up here, any thoughts on either James Madison or Marshall possibly jumping into the top 25 anytime soon? I think those are our top 2 aspects or teams that we can look at right now. Obviously both undefeated. I think that's the aspect. When you're a Sun Belt team or a G5 team in general, you have to be undefeated to be in that top 25 ranking.
Right. I've got to see. I can't remember who James Madison plays after this week. What's James Madison's schedule? Because I know NC State certainly won't catapult Marshall into the top 25. They're a good win for them and for us as a conference, but that's certainly low level P5.
Yeah. I'll pull it up now. They play Georgia Southern, who at right now is 4-1. We'll have to see how this weekend goes. But 4-1, if they come in at 5-1, is that enough? Well, actually, they won't come in 5-1. They don't play this weekend. So you've got a matchup that'll have JMU versus Georgia Southern, who are both off this week, and they won't meet in week 7. So, I don't know how many points people are going to give Georgia Southern as far as being a.
Well, that's what I'm saying. How quality of a win is that if Georgia Southern's already lost?
Yeah, and that loss was bad, honestly.
Right.
Now, if they played better, it would have been a bit of a good loss, I think, honestly,
right.
Because you just don't turn the ball over 6 times, and you've got a much better chance of winning the game. But
and also too, Wisconsin is not considered a juggernaut even in their own conference. So
true. Very true. Yeah,
I don't know.
I think it's still a few weeks away. But if they keep winning, they both keep winning. You've got I'm gonna put money on the line and say Marshall. Marshall will be the first one to get ranked. Why? If they beat NC State this weekend,
right?
And if they beat Georgia State, even though they had that bad looking loss, if Georgia State comes in with that 4-1 record, which they will, obviously, because they don't play this week either. Now you've got Marshall sitting at a possible 5-0 coming in, beating a 4-1 team as well, also having beaten a Power 5 team, which JMU did beat a Power 5 team, but it was Virginia, and they're freaking awful. At least NC State's got 3 wins so far this year.
Right, yeah.
So I'm going to say I'll put money on Marshall being ranked first if they continue, but then they also play each other the week after that. So there you go.
So that may decide it, to be quite honest.
It could. And it's a Thursday night game, which means
Especially, if they continue to go, if both teams continue to go undefeated, that might decide who's that 24th, 23rd, 24th, 25th team.
Yeah, where's that game at on Thursday? Oh, it's in Huntington. Dang, I was gonna say Harrisonburg is a reasonable drive to go up and see that one on a Thursday night.
I don't mind riding shotgun.
Yeah, it's a little. Huntington's a little further, man. That's I think I looked that
I'm
up.
good
That's
on
like
that.
7 or 8 hours in a car. That's not gonna happen.
Yeah, no, I'm good on that. May go down the street though. Check them out against NC State. We'll see how it goes. I got nothing else to
man.
do.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm thinking. 2 o'clock's like that perfect time, man. Doesn't waste your whole day. You
Right.
got your morning,
Exactly.
you got your night. It's perfect. And like I said, for you and me, that's a 20-minute drive at the most, maybe. I don't know how far it is for you, but that's about how far
Brody
I
might
am.
want to. My kid might want to check it out. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll have to be in touch about that one too. But I guess as we wrap it up here, Artie Cat has let us know another great show, gentlemen. We appreciate
Thanks,
you
brother.
and all the interaction. Anybody else who wants to jump on whenever we do this live, which pretty much will be every time, jump on. Give us some questions, some comments. We'll definitely be including you in the show. We love the interaction. It's a lot more fun when people care, right? We already talked about that with fans of the team, so we want it for the podcast too. We appreciate everyone tuning in. Check out TJ across social media. I think you're TJ Corman across most of it, right?
Yep, absolutely. Social media, TJ Corman on Facebook, 2 Instagrams, Thick Thighs and Large Fries, and at Mr. Corman 12. And then I'm kind of on X, Twitter, whatever that is. I don't check it that often, but I am there.
Yeah, I did find you the other day. I was like, this isn't him. And I realized it was just a really old photo of you sitting in an office chair, I think.
Yeah. And I'm hardly ever on whatever it is now, Twitter, whatever they want to call it. I'm hardly ever on there.
Well, Sunbelt Syndicate is across all of them. Maybe too many of them. We're on Twitch. I don't know if
Never
anybody
too
tuned
many.
in on Twitch tonight, but whatever. We're there. So we've got all the coverage that we can have. College football dogs here. We're trying to work on doing some more previews, writing articles, post-game stuff as well. So you can find us on the internet, social media. Be on the lookout, and we will come back at you next week. Thanks for tuning in. See y'all later.